Good evening, Kemper Museum, Contemporary Museum, Kemper Museum, a contemporary art community. My name is Edgar Palacios, and I run the Latinx Education Collaborative. We are an organization in Kansas City that works on increasing the representation of Latinx education professionals in K-12. I am a proud member of our Creative Action Initiative Committee, and I'm joined here by some of our other committee members and my colleagues, Susan Mong and Oz Qureshi. I'm going to turn it over to them to introduce themselves before we jump into what the Creative Action Initiative is. Susan, how are you doing this evening?
I am doing great and glad to be with you two handsome guys here to talk about this. I am the Superintendent of Culture for Johnson County Park and Recreation District and have the privilege of working with a team there at the Johnson County Arts and Heritage Center. A lot of people in the community know it as the old King Louis building, but we have a great cultural hub there, and I am just really privileged to serve alongside you two in this effort to engage the community around what the Kemper is all about. So good to be here.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us tonight. And then Oz, how about yourself?
Yeah, I'm the program director at MINDDRIVE. We're a in-school, after-school program for middle and high school students. We build robots, electric cars. We're probably most known for the types of cars that we build. It's just a unique way of looking at STEM, and I'm really honored and to have been asked to be a part of this initiative. Humbled by it and excited to be here. And these are very important issues. Obviously, it's a very important time for all of us. So thanks for having me. Thanks for having me on.
Appreciate you being here. So I'm going to jump in with some questions. For those of our community that aren't unaware of what the Creative Action Initiative Committee is, Susan or Oz, would you like to explain a little bit about the initiative and how this came about?
You want me to jump in, Oz, first?
Well, I think it was. I'll follow the sword. I'll try at least. I think it was a group of leaders around town who were asked to be a part of this inaugural group to maybe provide a different perspective on things as it relates to the Kemper Contemporary Museum of Art. So, and we came up with an idea for how we might be able to draw attention to voting in a unique way, but I think that's the briefest way I could describe it, and hopefully that Susan, you can expand on that a little bit. But that's my understanding of the Creative Action Initiative.
Yeah, no, I think that's really great, and I would just add that I think the team that was assembled is almost as exciting as the goal of the initiative itself. The diversity, the servants that are doing amazing work like you two out in the community. Again, I think how they curated sort of that group of leaders was really neat. And they didn't just say, hey, let's get together for 1 or 2 meetings. It's really the long game of trying to figure out how we engage and connect better together and figure out how to reflect the contemporary issues, that word contemporary, right?
Yeah.
And just listen and learn and try to connect our community better together. And then this thing called COVID came along, right? And we've really only ever met each other on this screen. So
that is absolutely true. We all signed up to be a part of this committee prior to COVID-19. And so we had no clue that this was going to be a part of our journey together as well.
For sure. Yeah.
I also got I would be remiss if I didn't also say that I'm also wearing the hat as the board chair of the Latino Arts Foundation as well. And so that's my intersection with this community. One thing that I've appreciated about our work is really of centering art and pushing and promoting civic engagement and learning how we can all combine kind of our different resources and our different abilities and talents to really hopefully make an impactful change on essentially getting out the vote. Is that correct? That's my interpretation of the committee. It's been really exciting to see just how we're all coming from different places from across Kansas City, from different backgrounds, different experiences, to see how best we can support our community and getting out the vote for this year. Oz, why do you think art is so important in these conversations?
It's paramount because not everyone has the same way of expressing or communicating. Communication is so important, as we have seen. What can happen with a breakdown in communication? And what I have discovered in just my experience in working with young people and teaching is people express themselves in different ways, and not everyone has the ability to communicate effectively in traditional means, what we might consider traditional means. And so what does art provide? It provides people with a way of communicating. I mean, how many people are unable to maybe express how they feel or their views on an issue with words, but can do so through the medium of art in whatever shape that takes? We teach young people how to weld, and we do that by allowing them to create junk art out of unwanted metal. So what young people are able to create, and they may try and express how they feel about a topic, and maybe you can understand, maybe you can't, but when they create something, then you're like, oh, I see it. I see what it is, what message you were trying to convey. I can see where you're coming from. I can see now how you feel about that. And now we have a deeper level of understanding, right? And whether I like the art or appreciate the art at some level makes no difference. It allows me to see where the artist is coming from, and as they say, a picture's worth 1,000 words. But when you can see a representation of something, whether it's traditional art or music or whatever, it opens the world and allows people to communicate in ways that may be difficult.
Yeah. And I would say, as someone who's not, I wouldn't call myself an artist in the sense, I think we all have that creative ability, but, to me, it slows things down. It causes me to reflect and view someone else's journey in life, to be able to engage around something. And I think it breaks down barriers a lot in terms of allowing people to come to something that can be very divisive and maybe come away with a different or a greater understanding, at least. And I think we're all experiencing that negativity out there. And I think our group's really excited about, yes, getting out the vote, but beyond that vote, what else can we be doing to engage with our community in a positive way that moves everybody forward? So I really love that tone that I think the group has set as well.
I appreciate that, Susan. I'm going to ask you as a follow-up. I don't know, from my perspective, museums have never felt like that place of leading the conversation necessarily in these spaces. What do you think the Kemper's role, in either community building or getting out the vote or creating those conversations, what do you think the Kemper's role is in this space today?
Yeah, well, I think, one of the major roles and part of why this initiative was started was to say this is a place for everybody, and that they want that space to feel like it belongs to the whole community. And I love that. And sometimes that means getting outside of the building walls and figuring out how to meet people where they're at and help them connect to that larger story. And I think the work we're doing now, it'll be exciting to see how it grows to where no matter where you live in the Kansas City metro area, that you feel like, hey, that's my museum, and that it reflects a little bit about who we are.
Thank you for that. Oz, what do you think is the Kemper's role in this conversation?
Oh, maybe to come at it from a different angle. Sometimes I think contemporary art does that. And I'm I am not an art aficionado by any means, but when I think of contemporary art, I think of something that's different. Mm-hmm. I think of viewing something from a different angle, from a different perspective, and can be invaluable. As someone who's biracial myself, I've always felt like I've had the benefit of perspective, of being able to see both sides of a topic or an issue, and things are pretty heavy right now. And I think that's probably an understatement. And the more perspective we can have on these issues, I think it's only better for all of us. So to me, it's about providing an opportunity for perspective and putting it on a stage where everybody can see it.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. You know, something you said about it can feel really heavy times, particularly with COVID, what's going on a political in the political conversations. We're experiencing a lot fast. And so I also think about the opportunity for a museum like the Kemper to serve as like a healing space, right?
Mm-hmm.
Art is often seen as a tool for healing and retrospection and inflection. And so one thing that I'm really appreciative about the museum is that it creates that space for us to come together as a community, to open its doors and to welcome us, and to maybe not think so critically about everything, but also enjoy the now. And enjoy the art that it provides us, right, in elevating that conversation. What have you found to be kind of the most interesting parts of our committee work? COVID-19, irrespective of COVID-19, we'll talk about COVID-19 here in a second. Susan?
You know, I right now what comes to my head is the amazing culinary activity that happens sometimes during our meeting. You know, we'll have members that are making these amazing dishes, and I'm thinking, what, I want the recipe for that. Or the amazing talent, you know, vocally, you know, I think we've been able to hear. And so for me, it's this appreciation for all these gifts and talents. You know, Edgar, you're hosting this, using your gifts in this way. And so I'm in awe of just, again, all the unique talent that's around the table. So for me, I'm excited how that can be harnessed more, especially when we can actually be in the same room with one another. So that's pretty exciting to me.
Oz, what's been most interesting about this experience for you?
I think Susan mentioned it earlier, and that was the diversity of the group. And just I didn't realize some, you know, organizations were existed in town that you know, it's one of those things where it's like, oh my gosh, I feel like I should have known that some of these organizations were there, or getting to meet people, you know, from different businesses that I never probably would have met. That was one of the big attractive elements to being a part of a group like this, is just knowing that I was going to get to meet people outside of my little bubble. You know, in the industry that I work in, you get to know a lot of the same people, and or maybe not. Like Edgar, I was excited to meet you because I think we kind of work in the same circles. But and I've heard about you and knew about you, but I hadn't actually gotten to meet you yet. So I think that's been the best part. Or
I agree. I think it's been really, it's cool to be a part of a different group. I think sometimes we're siloed in the work that we're doing and in the communities that we live in, right? And so getting out of the box a little bit, I really appreciated the Kemper's intentionality behind the diversification of the group as well, and making sure that this is, I would say it's an incredibly diverse group, not just from race and ethnicity, but also age and experience and leadership positions and whatnot. So it's been really cool to see the Kemper kind of take the lead. And I'm really impressed by the leadership at the Kemper at the moment. Mm-hmm. I got to say, though, I do miss not being able to meet in the actual building itself. I think it would be cool to do some, I don't know, like an event there at some point in time. But we'll talk. We actually do have some stuff planned with our committee in terms of getting out the vote. But we'll talk about that in a second. I'm losing the name of this tool that we've learned during our committee meetings when we kind of reflect on the art. So I think we start our meetings by looking at a piece of art that is either hangs at the Kemper or has hung at the Kemper. Do you know the name of that?
Design thinking. Is that?
I don't know if it's design thinking. It's like visual.
Oh, yes. Sean and Ann are like, can you not remember the name of this? Come on. Oh gosh, let's see.
I gotta say, I've really appreciated being able to dissect some of the artwork within the Kemper and really use that tool. And Sean, my apologies for not having the appropriate name for that. But I think
I just found it. It's visual thinking strategies.
And for the save, visual thinking strategies. Was that a new experience for you all, or is that something that you've done before?
No, that was, it's totally new. It kind of like, really interesting, because you're doing it with people who have done it before and know what they're doing, and not necessarily know what they're looking at, but kind of know what they're looking for. And I had never really I never really looked at it that way. I never had the opportunity, I would say, to look at art that way.
I had done it once before, but it had been a while, and it just reminded me of, again, we go so fast in our culture, and everything's just instant. And I love how it slows us down and just kind of challenges our, judgment, snap observations that we make. And that process just reminded me of, so many things we miss in the world if we don't just kind of slow down a little bit. So.
At the beginning of our committee work, or our time as a committee together, we had a lot of different options of how we could engage or what we wanted to do as a committee. Susan, do you remember some of those options, or can you walk us through that process of how we got to getting out the vote kind of campaign?
Well, I remember we were going big with our ideas, and we were thinking of murals and buildings nearby that we could take over, and light shows. And I think that, I think that was all great. And then we just had to kind of get real with the constraints that we had and timelines, and kind of return back to that goal, which was, okay, yes, we're in COVID, but how can we still do this? And how, what can we do to engage the community? And the staff, gosh, I have to just, again, give them lots of props, because they had a lot of challenges too. And I think they've been really great about not being prescriptive and telling us, this is what we want you to, the product we want you to come up with, but really allowed it to be organic, based on, those of us that were at the table. So what do you remember, Oz, about some of the cool things we were looking at?
Well, it started out with sort of trying to tackle this enormous looming event, and how do we go about doing something that could be meaningful, but knowing that we have limited resources to work with, and we all can't just quit our day jobs and go full 100% into trying to tackle this topic. So what could we do that would be meaningful and impactful? And we got down one road, and we realized that wasn't going to work, and we switched gears, and now we're going ahead with the plan, and so it's a huge event, the election. And how do we draw attention to some of the aspects of voting that we don't always necessarily talk about? Like, I think historically, when we think about voting and we think about voter apathy, we miss that sometimes it's people don't vote not necessarily because they don't want to, but maybe because they can't, or it's not necessarily the easiest thing for them to be able to do. And until everyone can vote equally, how do we even know what apathy even looks like? How do we even tabulate that figure? So it's a huge undertaking. Well, it's a huge topic. So how do you come at it in a reasonable way with an event or with an idea and with something that can be impactful yet work with what we have to work with? And so, yeah.
I think about the complexity, right? I think the other thing, again, when we talked about COVID-19 coming in and really kind of shifting our ability to do some of these bigger ideas and execute some of these bigger things, it's been interesting to see the pivot of a lot of our organizations, even us showing up on time on a Zoom on a Saturday morning to talk about these issues was complicated in the beginning, I think, because we were still trying to figure out how to navigate the space. And now we're 6 months into this space or into this time period. And I'm surprised, but also it's really cool to see our colleagues adapt as well and share those stories of what they're working through or how they're kind of facing the challenge at hand. I know that we have some organizations that are represented within our committee that are performing arts organizations, right? And so they've had to navigate, like, what does our art look like without a stage or with the ability to gather in a theater. I know that some of our folks are, very much present in bringing people together and convening folks. And so now that has to look completely differently as well. It's kind of just an interesting time for us, but I'm really excited that our committee was able to kind of gather and really come up with, I think, which is a really neat idea. I'm going to put a flyer up here momentarily, but Oz, I'm going to kick it to you. Talk a little bit about our upcoming project. We started the project, I think, on September 21st. I'll see the date there. But what are we currently working on as a committee right now to help with voter engagement and community engagement in general?
We're posting on social media using the hashtag #CreativeActionKC, and we're preparing for an event on October 12th where we're going to create some art on the sidewalk at the museum. We're each able to invite 2 artists to participate in that event. And so right now, all of us are working on trying to get our artwork together to post. I'm trying to lean on some of the creative people in my life to come up with some cool posts that I think will highlight what it is that I value and find important about voting. And to me, again, I go back to just trying to draw attention to the fact that not everyone has access to voting equally. And until we can have that, until that can be put more into the forefront, that's just, where I'm coming from and what I value and what I think is important. So, and I think that's what's unique about that part of the project is everyone is creating art, I believe, that is, looks at voting in a way in which through their perspective, through what they value, which is cool.
Thanks, Oz. Susan, is this something that the entire community can participate in, or how does this work?
Absolutely. In fact, that's part of the reason we're here tonight, of course, is just to really ask everybody's help in getting the word out. We really want to engage, again, whether you're an accomplished artist or like me, you kind of maybe struggle a little bit. We want to hear your thoughts. Maybe it's words on a paper, maybe it's a visual representation, but we want to know what inspires you. You already alluded that we've got kind of the guidelines and information out there, but really we want to engage partners. So if there's organizations out there that are willing to help us, and maybe work with the circles you have influence over. We just really want this to catch fire. And it's about voting. It's about, kind of railing against the apathy that a lot of people feel, whether they even can vote. Do they feel like their vote matters? And we really want people to remain hopeful and just stay engaged. Yep.
Appreciate that. I'm going to cover your faces right now with some of the flyers that talk about this issue. So we want our community, again, to make their mark, post about their own artwork about civic engagement on social media and tag it with the hashtag #CreativeActionKC. And then we're going to repost it and kind of to encourage people to vote and to get engaged in the civic discussion that we're doing as well. You're also able to email your work. And it's going to be featured in a virtual gallery on the Kemper Museum app. And it's really about, again, it's between September 21st and November 3rd. So we still have a little bit of time. Election day is nearing upon us, but we do have just a little bit of time for you to get engaged and involved and tell us how you feel about voting. And then I'm also going to post some of the requirements up here, or at least the guidelines. I won't necessarily go through them, but I'm going to let people read through it and just kind of, for example, something that's important, it can be viewed by people of all ages, so try to be age appropriate. We are trying to do this artwork in a respectful environment. We want to encourage conversation, but with respect to each other. Submissions should be nonpartisan and not name any candidates. This is really about encouraging people to exercise their vote and their choice in this space. And we want to see the diversity of our community represented and reflected. So we welcome everyone who has the capacity and ability to create art, whatever that looks like. And we want you to share it. We have some of the format guidelines right there. What I'll also make sure that we do is on this stream or on these comments, we'll include a link to this information as well. But let us know. We want to make sure that we're including your artwork in this. If you are passionate about this work, if you're passionate about making sure that our communities have a voice in these conversations, we want to hear from you and we want to see you incorporated into this work. We're really excited to see what comes from it. Oz, you mentioned earlier prior to us jumping in that I think your daughter was going to create some art for this project as well. Is that correct?
Yeah, she's going to participate in the Sidewalk Art Project on the 12th. And hopefully I can recruit her to help me create some posts. Yeah, and I think that's really an interesting way. Again, what Susan mentioned is this is an opportunity to create something that allows you to express your perspective on democracy and voting and we've got all of these things that are just major things happening in the world right now, from COVID to the election to the economy. Now you have an opportunity to share your perspective and share what's important to you and try and do it in the most positive way possible, because we could all use some positivity. And I think if for no other reason, do it for that, right? Like because we need that positivity. We do not have to look very far to find the negativity, right? Like it only takes a couple of clicks, a couple of thumb swipes, and you can get to all the negativity you want. What we need is some positivity, and especially as it relates to this, because we all know how important it is. Yeah, and that's what I'll say.
Susan, are you planning to do any art for the project, or how are you planning to engage your network in this project?
Yeah, so I mentioned the Arts and Heritage Center is where the team is that I get to work with. And so I'm definitely going to be engaging the Arts Council. So kind of being on the Kansas side, I want to make sure that that we're engaging all parts of the metro. So I'll be sharing that with our community through the Arts Council of Johnson County, through the Arts and Heritage Center, and just inspiring people to not only engage individually, but also find a couple of those awesome artists that can participate at our event coming up. So, and I will also just say, whoever's listening, we'd love to hear your ideas or feedback. If there's anyone out there that wants to share, I know there's probably contact information on the flyers, Edgar, that you shared, but if there's cool ideas that you have moving forward or about anything talked about, I know you hear them too, so.
Yeah, I appreciate that invitation. So for those of you that are viewing us, feel free to comment or share your thoughts, or share what kind of art you're planning to utilize for this project. I'm also going to challenge our community of viewers right now to name their favorite work of art, or name a reason why they believe that they should be engaged in voter registration efforts, or at least getting out the vote efforts as well. Why is that important to you? And how do you feel about Kemper taking on an initiative like this? I really think I feel like it's an innovative approach. Again, it's been an interesting experience because I don't think our community, particularly, well, I'll speak for myself in this. Sometimes museums don't feel inviting. Sometimes, particularly like where I was born and where I was raised, how I grew up, museums feel like these spaces that aren't as welcoming or as inclusive as they possibly could be. And so it's been really cool to see the Kemper kind of shift those narratives and really create a space where we all feel like we belong, and we all feel like we have some ownership of the art and for what happens within the walls of the museum. Oz, I don't know. Do you agree with that statement or not?
I think it would be very difficult to walk that balance, if you're a museum and the work that you display, you want people to realize its power and realize how amazing that work is. And there's a little bit of exclusivity that will come with that, right? If you're in a museum and you're looking at works of art, you're thinking, well, these people are really good at something that I may not be good at. That's a certain level of could I ever maybe get to that? But at the same time, you're trying to also communicate that no, there is a level in which you can get involved. And I would find that to be a very difficult balancing act. So I definitely commend the Kemper for creating an initiative like this, because I imagine that's probably where that's coming from. We want to always communicate to our constituents, to the public, that this is a place where we believe everyone belongs, while at the same time we are putting on display art that we think is incredible and amazing. And that's always kind of been well, again, I'll speak for myself, and when I think of contemporary art, it's really unique, and you said innovative, and I would say this is a unique approach to including the community in a very difficult conversation, but doing it from an artistic point of view, and allowing people to express their perspective and their values.
I would add to that too, that I know they have got an amazing education team at the Kemper. They've got docents that are there. And, for community members, that feel intimidated or they don't know how to approach a piece or understand it, they've got amazing resources for those that feel like maybe it's outside of their normal comfort zone. And I know they're doing amazing work in the school systems as well to really help students see themselves in that work and even imagine themselves being a part of a museum someday. So I will say that I think there's some awesome things happening there to break down some of those barriers, but agreed that it can be intimidating for sure. And I think we can also kind of thank a lot of the donors that many of us don't know about that kind of help keep the programs and the space accessible and affordable and all that stuff. So that's a real gift to the community for sure.
I also got to say, I'm embarrassed to admit this, but one of my favorite soups I've had at the Kemper. So I don't know if you've ever experienced like butternut squash soup. First of all, I love the restaurant. I forget the name. My apologies again. And please don't hurt me or fire me. But one of the best meals I've ever had was within the walls of the Kemper Museum. Am I dreaming this? I feel like I have. Like I've been. Have you ever been to the restaurant there?
I have not been to the restaurant, but I was just going to say the gift shop is like through the roof amazing too. But now I'm totally craving that soup right now. So.
I'm thinking about fall, and I'm thinking about like the cold weather and like what a nice butternut squash soup would be. I also love the art that's hanging within the restaurant. I think that's pretty cool. I saw a tour of students one time. There it is. It is Cafe Sebastien, or French.
Ooh, nice.
Or maybe some people pronounce it Cafe Sebastian. I don't know. Seems a little less way. But actually, one of my favorite memories at the Kemper, I got to say, to your point around the education and their relationships with the local school districts and the local schools. I was sitting there having lunch. I think I was enjoying my soup, and I saw this line of kids, right? Kids just like walking through the halls and just remarking on the art and like talking about it and enjoying it and commenting like, oh, I've never seen anything like that before. Or, it was just cool to see the kids explore and see something that they may not be used to seeing. And so that's one of my favorite moments at the Kemper. And so I think that spirit is the same spirit that helps and that created the Creative Action Initiative Committee that we're a part of as well. It's just this inclusive, welcoming, warm environment that the museum provides, and the art. Right, the art is decent. I don't know. I'm not an art professional, an art connoisseur, but I feel like the Kemper has some incredible art. Again, I could be wrong. It could be a matter of opinion there. Anyways, I'll stop talking, but. I just really love the welcoming environment that the museum creates for us and the ability to have these conversations and to create that space. As we kind of near the end of our conversation, before we end, I'm going to go ahead and put those flyers up again one more time. But Susan, Oz, is there anything that I may have missed in covering throughout this conversation, or any final thoughts that you may have that you want to make sure that our community is aware of?
Well, I would say, just going back, we talked about the diversity of this group, and I would back that up by saying this is not something I would have ever thought I would be a part of. Like, it's not something I would have thought that I would have gotten invited to. So art, you talked about art not necessarily being something you're not a critic per se, or you're not an aficionado. I appreciate art, but it's not like I don't frequent a lot of museums. I'm not in that world. I wouldn't necessarily know one thing from the other. I do think that what we do and what I do is we create art, but we're not looking to display it necessarily anywhere. So it's not necessarily something that I would have ever have thought I would have gotten to be a part of. So the fact that I'm a part of this group and have been able to share, my perspective and what I value on things is just a testament to that diversity that we have talked about throughout the night. So, I think that's can give people comfort in knowing that there's a lot of people on this group that are not necessarily, would not probably think of themselves as being in the contemporary art world, for sure.
And I would just say I'm just really impressed with the commitment of the leadership at Kemper, Sean and Ann and all of the staff, really at being committed to this as a process that, I think, we're looking at a 2-year process here again to really, in a meaningful way, engage the community, figure out how they can do it better. I just love their mindset to say, we want to bring the right people to the table. And, for me, it's just a privilege. And I think you said it too, both of you, that it's, I feel really humbled to be a part of a group of just amazing people in our community. So, hi, Angelique.
Yes, I want to welcome Angelique into the conversation. But before I get to you, Angelique, I just really want to quickly bring this comment in from one of our viewers. Kelly, thank you so much for joining us this evening. Kelly says, thank you for sharing this conversation. I've never been to the Kemper Museum, and now I'm going to make plans to visit. We have done our job successfully tonight. I'm excited about that. But Angelique, I'm going to try to unmute you here. Will you introduce yourself? Tell us who you are.
Hi, everybody. I'm sorry I'm jumping a little bit late into the conversation. I just now had the opportunity to, and I had talked to Edgar and told him that was going to happen anyway. My name is Angelique Staggs, and amongst other things, I am a musician in Kansas City. I am from Brazil originally, so my genre is Brazilian. I sing in a couple of ensembles in the city, Palacios, Brazil, which is a strict Brazilian band. It's fun and loud, and you put people on their feet dancing all night long. And I am a part of a couple of jazz ensembles, and it's a Brazilian jazz all over the city. So I had to be invited. I am part of the group. I have done some programs, participated with the museum in different initiatives as a musician. So it's been an honor to be part of this group. Somehow, with my music, bring the musicians together. Around the theme that is so important. So,
and Angelique, again, thank you so much for joining us and being one of our colleagues on this committee. I really love the perspective that you're bringing as a musician, particularly with Brazilian music, and elevating that within our community, and bringing a part of who you are into this conversation, into this space. And then we have some feedback from Ann. Do you have your hand on your mic by any chance, Angelique?
Yes, I do. I think I might have. I think that's a little bit better.
Yeah, does that sound better for you all? So, Angelique, I'm going to ask you this question that I asked Susan and Oz. We've been talking a lot about just the importance of community and the importance of engaging our community to elevate their voices in these conversations, specifically around like voter engagement. Why do you think that's so important for the Kemper to do, and for us as a committee to kind of coalesce around that issue?
I think that if I myself as an individual, as a citizen, and that's an important question for all of us, I think I'm going to answer, first of all, as myself. If I don't exercise that right to choose to participate, somebody else is going to do it for me, and I might not like what the outcome is going to be very much. So I think it's very important, and I have been giving this opportunity, this platform as a musician to where people are actually looking at me and paying attention to what I have to say. And I have the opportunity to hopefully influence my group of peers in a positive way to come together and listen. And if at least a percentage of them can listen and be moved into action, into engagement, it's a great thing. It's really a great thing. And I am really proud of Camper for having this idea and this initiative to bring the community together inside the museum, for the museum. I think, like Oz said, a lot of us do not consider ourselves artistic or, very much into the contemporary arts, but just the fact that I think the intention primarily of Camper Museum was to bring the community inside the museum and to speak to what is needed right now and what can be used to motivate. And it is what they have in their hands, which is art. And art has many expressions, as we are having the opportunity to see in our discussions and with the projects that are coming out of our wonderful meetings. And I think it was a very fortunate choice of each one of us. Together, we gel in a way that it forms this very delicious, it makes it very tasty and very diverse and very interesting, I have to say. So it's been an honor, and I hope that we can keep moving on and doing it better, because 2020 is a dress rehearsal for what 2021 is going to be. That's how I'm looking at this. I am so looking forward for having the chance to bring a bunch of musicians together to jam in a huge outdoor jam or an indoor jam inside the museum, where we can raise our voices and our instruments and talk and give a statement to what it is that we think about and we feel about when we think about civic engagement and exercising our rights as citizens or not of this country.
First and foremost, you made my evening by a couple of reasons. One, you associated me with the word delicious, and so that's a huge one for me. And then two, talking about just, I got stuck on the delicious term, also probably because I'm a little bit hungry, so my apologies. But you're absolutely right. I think that the diversity of our group and bringing us together, and there it is, the run through, or like this is the dress rehearsal for 2021. Mm-hmm. If that isn't like an astute statement right there, I'm excited to see what happens in 2021 and how we actually all are going to continue into 2021, from my understanding.
That's great.
So just a question for each and every one of you. And before I ask you that question, I'm going to actually just bring back the project again for those who are just joining us or part of this conversation. We are looking for you to make your mark by posting your own artwork about civic engagement on social media and tagging it with the hashtag Creative Action KC. We want to make sure to highlight your work. We're going to be utilizing that to promote your work on our virtual museum app, as well as social media. We want to create a movement here in Kansas City around voter engagement and making sure that your voices are heard, particularly from our artistic community, those who are interested in. And then we also have some guidelines there that I'll just leave on momentarily, but just quickly. This is about encouraging a diverse perspective of voices to engage in this space. We hope that this is work that will encourage people to vote in the 2020 election, which happens to happen on November 3rd. This is nonpartisan. This idea is around bringing in and asking our community to engage in these conversations. And then, of course, we want to be respectful of each other and of our opinions. We want to make sure that these artworks create the opportunity for us to have conversations and not disparage any individual. in particular. And then, of course, hashtag Creative Action KC. It should be viewed by people of all ages. So if you tend to be a more risque artist, feel free to figure out a new way of expressing yourself. I don't know if that makes sense or not, or choose not to express yourself. I don't know, whatever feels comfortable for you in that space. What do you hope after we're done with the election and we've gone through this initial project? What do you hope that our committee will be able to do in 2021 besides probably get together in person, meet? What are kind of your hopes and expectations for our committee?
Something a whole lot less heavy.
A little bit more fun. I like that.
Yeah, something a whole lot less serious than this current situation.
I think I'm going to jump in here, and I hope that we can bring more people into the museum. And I hope that we can connect Kemper with all parts of all representations of individuals from our city, from east to west, from north to south. We are mini groups, and I hope that we can somehow become a voice that represents and what are people thinking and what they want to see themselves expressed inside the museum.
And I'm going to take it a little more personal too, and just say that I'm really looking forward to continuing for us to get to know each other and really connect and build that trust, because I think from that is going to come something really beautiful in the next year. And I think, I hope the museum will become a beacon as a result of that, because of the positive energy that we're bringing and connecting with the circles that we're all a part of, and just that synergy that will come. And I'm really looking forward to the journey of that, and just like I said, connecting with each other in a deeper way as well. So,
Angelique, I'm interested. I asked this of Susan and Oz. Are you planning on submitting artwork for the project?
I'm sorry, say that again. I didn't quite understand.
Are you planning on submitting artwork for the project? Are you going to video yourself singing in support of Creative Action KC?
I actually did. I posted a video. You can hashtag it out there. You will find it. We did. I'll tell you, the biggest challenge was to fit it in less than 60 seconds. We tried and tried and tried, and we actually had to edit it to make it fit in less than 6, because Instagram wouldn't take it. It has to see 60 seconds or less. But we did. It was fun. It was informal, and we did something that we thought it spoke to us. And when we think about civic engagement and all the songs that are out there, we did a mashup. A cover mashup of a couple of different songs, and if you look it up, you will be able to see it's out there.
I can't wait.
That's a good call to action. Make sure to follow us under the hashtag Creative Action KC,
right,
and all social media platforms. And we encourage you to share your art with us. So as we wrap up this conversation, I was going to ask you some final thoughts, but I'm going to finish up this way. What is your favorite work of art?
Ooh. Ay, that's very hard to say.
I'll start. Dogs playing poker. I don't know who did that or how it came to be in existence, but it gives me a lot of joy.
Mine is going to have to be a piece that my daughter created, and I don't have a title for it, but it's about serving others. And so I'm going to say the artist in my house, my daughter, when she was 5 years old. So there you go.
Oh, that's great. I'm going to say this because it is one that I know by heart. I like many different ones, but this one always speaks to me. I like the colors, and I like what it represents. Gustav Klimt, and one in particular, it's The Kiss. I love that one in this. So that's I wouldn't say it's my ultimate favorite, but it is one of my favorites.
Yeah, I don't know that I have a favorite piece of art. So I'll follow Susan, and my daughter has created so many different things over the years, even from when, a lot of really unique. She's just incredibly talented, but she made a painting for very first painting she made for me when she was 3 or 4. I used to build houses with young people, and she painted a picture of me building a house with my students, and then our little family was there on the corner, and so it's something I still have, framed. So that's got to be it.
Well, I will amend my answer and say that I love all of my children's artwork.
I don't love all of my children's artwork. I don't. Some of them are really bad, but I get where you're coming from.
I love that. Well, again, this is just a call to action for our community. We encourage you to participate in the Creative Action KC. We will make sure to have the information on the social media post. Make sure to follow us on there as well. If you have any questions, also feel free to comment. I'm sure that we will be checking in and making sure that we are responsive to your needs in that space. But Susan, Oz, Angelique, thank you so much for joining me tonight. And thank you so much for joining me on the committee. It's been incredible to meet you, and I'm looking forward to continuing to learn more about each and every one of you. So.
Edgar, before we go, I just want to give it a shout out. Would you let me do that? Yes, I want to give a shout out to 2 of my friends, musicians, great musicians in Kansas City that helped me put that video together that is out there on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube. I want to thank Michael McClintock and his guitar. He is ahead of Cubanisms and Michael McClintock Music. He is part of several ensembles in Kansas City. He plays guitar and bass. And Bruno Bessa, the vocalist.
Bruno Bessa, the one and only.
Yes, Bruno, he is my buddy, my brother, and he's always in for whatever it is that I invite him to participate in, any crazy idea. So shout out to Bruno and Michael. And I challenge you, if you do music in Kansas City, I want to see your post. Create something and post hashtag Creative Action KC. I challenge you, musicians in Kansas City.
You inspired all of us. Susan, Oz, I'm going to give you an opportunity to also do some shout outs as well. Or no.
Or no.
I will shout out Anne for putting this group together and leading this group, and everyone over at the museum for leading this initiative, and this the last 6 months, it's like every week something changes, right? And I think that's what's made it so. I mean, one of the things that's made it such a difficult period is that the target keeps moving, and then the details keep changing, and just when you think you've got it figured out, something else is different, and that creates a lot of anxiety. And so huge shout out to them for leading this group and dealing with all the changes along the way.
And I will do a shout out to all of the teaching artists, all of the artists that are a part of the Johnson County Arts and Heritage Center family. Whether you attend classes there, teach classes there, or have had your artwork displayed in our exhibition space, come join us. Creative Action KC hashtag, and we'd love to see your what inspires you, and just help inspire the community. So come join us.
I'll give the final word to Anne. Dogs Playing Poker, my daughter's 5-year-old artwork. Klimp's The Kiss, the daughter's 3-year-old painting of me building a house. Kansas City, show us your artwork, and when you do, tag it Creative Action KC. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I hope each and every one of you has a phenomenal rest of your evening. Take care and be safe out there.
Awesome.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.